Well, Jess, welcome to Live Your Life with Purpose podcast. Certainly very excited to connect. We met just recently, and I know that you are the owner of Mama Life Oil and Wellness and also the Restorative Wellness Center, correct?
Yes, thank you for having me.
Excellent.
I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
And so I was really intrigued by your story, but I guess I have that proverbial question. What came first, the oils or the center?
Uh, I have to think about that one. What did come first? The oils came first.
Yeah.
So I had my daughter in 2016.
Hmm.
How everything got started. Quite the journey. So I had my daughter in November 2016, and she was born with what they call midline deformities.
Hmm.
So she just had basically the poor little thing had tons of ties in her mouth.
Hmm.
Um, eight, I believe, eight of them.
Oh, wow.
And I had a doula for my birth, and
Hmm.
she was actually going to naturopathic school. And she came for a postpartum visit and said, "You need to check her for a genetic mutation called MTHFR." And when you sound it out, it sounds like a bad word, and everyone kind of laughs about it. Um, and it's a very very long word, and
Yeah.
I can say it, but I'll probably mess it up.
Yeah, no problem.
And so basically, what MTHFR is, it's a genetic mutation where someone can't process toxins efficiently, and there's like so much more
Mm,
behind it.
sure.
This
Yeah.
is just like a glimpse of it. And so when you can't process toxins efficiently, then you have toxic buildup. When you have toxic buildup, then you have toxic overload. And when you have
Mm,
toxic overload, then you have all these like free radicals happening. And basically down the line, you're setting yourself, well, we don't set ourselves up but um, for some sort of disease, usually autoimmune issues.
okay.
So she tested positive for that. She got it from me. Yay, mom guilt.
Now,
Um,
did you know that you had that? Did you know, like, is that anything that had ever
no.
bothered you in the past?
Well, I have autoimmune issues.
Okay.
I have allergies and asthma, which are
Yeah.
autoimmune issues.
Yeah. Me
But
here. Same.
actually, after all the research I've done about it, um, most of us have this mutation. We just don't
Hmm.
know. Unless you get like genetic testing done. But like, who just like randomly goes out and gets genetic testing, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Not many
so,
of us. I
so
would imagine it's pretty expensive too. So that's probably a,
yeah, if it's not medically
if,
necessary,
yeah, exactly.
yeah,
If it's not being
not
done,
covered by your insurance
sure.
policy.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah, so I have it, she has it, and now I'm a double carrier, so now my son has it. I think my husband's negative for it, but
Mm,
so I had to figure out what I could do to somehow help her and
yeah.
myself. Um, so I one way to do that is to get rid of all the toxins in your household, like all environmental toxins that are in your household, which is actually like a boatload of stuff.
I
And
can
so
only
in
imagine.
order, yeah, um, it's like a huge laundry list of things. And so in order to do that, I basically threw everything out and started from scratch.
Oh,
And
yeah.
only way I knew how to do that was through essential oils. So all of my cleaning products,
Hmm.
my med kit, my medicine cabinet, hair products, cleaning products, laundry products, like you name it. Um, I switched all over to essential oils, and I made everything DIY. I was experimenting with everything,
Hmm.
experimenting with diaper cream and sunscreen, like you name it, hand soap, like I've
Oh,
you name it,
wow.
I've made it.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, so it was
And that just not to take a sidetrack, but like that had to have been a frustrating but also kind of fun process. I don't know. I like, does that type of thing like, was that always part of kind of who you were, or was this something that you just like, I'm all in, I have to figure this out, and
Yeah, so I had to be all in. I come from a medical family background, um, and my husband came from a holistic background, so we kind of like butted heads.
yeah.
And then, MTHFR came about, and I was like, I need to relearn everything over and over again. And
Mm.
I had to dive like head first, which was really overwhelming because I had really bad postpartum depression.
Oh yeah.
So on top of the postpartum, I had to now like learn a whole new way of living that I've never done before.
Yeah, which is a difficult thing to just navigate for yourself just in general, right? But then now you add this additional layer, and I can imagine it was overwhelming for you.
Yeah, yeah. So I went from like a completely medical mindset to a completely holistic mindset.
Wow.
Um, yeah, so it was a lot. I wouldn't say it was fun back then because of my postpartum.
Sure. Yeah.
I have fun now. I love experimenting with it. I love having people being like, "Hey, can you like do something for this? Can you make me
Hmm.
something?" And I'm like, "Sure, let me whip up a recipe." So I have tons of
That's
fun with it now.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, so that I've been doing that for my gosh, it's almost 5.5, so 5.5 years.
5.5 years. And so now this is, as soon as you said that kind of autoimmune disease, and as somebody with allergies and asthma that I've had since I was 4, um, I guess I never. I mean, I knew that, but that was kind of an eye-opening thing for me to hear. And so, how would you, I guess, kind of explain, or you know, for me who has never maybe been exposed to something like this, how would that help me with my potential asthma or allergies?
Mhm. So asthma and allergies are all inflammatory. Autoimmune diseases
Yeah.
are inflammatory responses.
Hmm.
So you want to do is decrease the inflammation. So if you have toxins in your environment, allergens, it creates a response
It's
in your system.
yeah.
Okay, and then your system acts up and it's fighting against something that is, not there, or there. So
Mm.
for
Hmm.
instance, I had asthma. So since converting, um, I have asthma and allergies. So um, since converting my whole household over and getting rid of all the toxins in my house, I have not used my inhaler in 5.5 years. Um,
That's wild.
isn't it
That
wild?
is, yes. That is,
Even
as
coming from
somebody,
like a medical mindset, and I'm like, heck no,
well,
no, no. And then I
and
like got
as
rid of all this stuff. I'm like, oh my god, I haven't used my inhaler in like 5 years.
so I, and for me, like, I've been using an inhaler since I was 4, basically not an inhaler, but it first started with this god awful sloughlin drink that I had to take, which, you know, it made me super hyper on top of my, I guess, I would kind of describe it as undiagnosed ADHD type of, and so really I had such a hard time paying attention or something. But I've always been frustrated all my life with taking medication on a regular basis, because I just I've always had to take something. And you start to, you need it, because if I don't take it, then I notice a difference in, kind of my breathing, and
Yeah,
that's no fun for anybody.
no,
um and so that's a wild thing for me to hear,
yeah,
that for
that's
you.
really
That's
awesome.
wild.
Because
That's great.
even when I would go for runs, I would need my rescue inhaler, like when it was humid or changing temperatures. And now if I go for a run, I'm like, I don't need my inhaler anymore.
Yeah.
Um, which is pretty cool. And then I was taking like Zyrtec all the time because I would just like break out in hives randomly. And like, you know, I'll break out in hives every now and again, but I don't
Mhm.
I don't need a Zyrtec. I don't need.
Yeah, well, and as you say that, like, we don't have any animals, but my son just got a dog, and he's amazing, and I love him. And he comes over, and I grew up with pets, and I was always allergic to it, and my allergies, trigger my asthma. And I had these bumps on my neck from the dog. He, kind of licked my neck, and I have that reaction to it now. And my wife was touching. She's just like, "Did you get scratched?" And I'm like, "Nope, that's Rocky just licked my neck, and that's the cause of it." And she's just like, "Oh my gosh." But yeah, like, that's wild.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. So after I
And
had my daughter, I didn't go back to work. So I always say by trade, I'm a mental health counselor. So I
mm,
had my own private practice in Long
okay.
Meadow. And I didn't go back to work right away because I realized I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, which
Mm.
I swore to everyone I wasn't going to be. I am now, 6 years in. Um, so I didn't go back to work right away. And so I think it was like a year and a half. I decided, I was like, you know what? I need to switch things up. Let me go back to work 2 half days a week. So I
Mm,
went back to work 2 half days a week, and I didn't feel fulfilled
mm,
like I thought I would. And with my daughter requiring all, holistic alternative treatments, finding them in the Western Mass area is like nearly impossible. Like you have to live
yeah.
in the Northampton Amherst area, which is a hike,
Yeah.
from,
Yeah.
we
Well,
now live
if
in.
you're making that trip, it's, you're talking 30-40 minutes,
You're
each
talking
every
a whole day.
yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, so I had to figure out like why I didn't feel fulfilled. And then I realized like we don't have a wellness center in our neck of the woods. There's no
Mm,
wellness center um, in the Long Meadow, Wilbraham, Hamden, East, like on that side of the river, down
yeah.
by the Connecticut, there's nothing. And I was like, gosh darn it, I'm gonna make one.
I
And
love that. And it's nice. So if you had your own practice before, like, having that kind of entrepreneurial spirit, was that something that you grew up with, or is that something that you just were like, "I'm trying this," and because I think that that's great, and I think that it's important for people to understand that and see it, right?
yes, no, I have no business background at all. Not no. I was working prior to my private practice, I was working in community mental health, and I got so burnt out. And
Yeah,
and the
yeah,
pay was really bad. And I was like, well,
yeah.
I'm just gonna make a private practice. That's just like my mindset. Like I have something in my mind, and I'm like, I'm just gonna go do it, and I'm gonna go do it. I go do it.
That's great.
So, but luckily, my
Mhm.
husband is a businessman and he's an entrepreneur, so
Mm,
he's been extremely helpful.
yeah. Yep.
Extremely helpful. Um,
And I'm sure supportive too, right? Like, and I
Super.
think that that's also the key, right? Because starting your own business, I know came with how many frustrations, how many nights of, days of like, I want to do this, but I can't do this. I want to do this, but I can't do this. And you
It's
need
still now
somebody,
too.
of course, yeah, but you still need somebody in your corner to say, this is just what you're going through right now. You can do this, and you have done it, and you will continue to do it.
Yeah.
That's great.
He's fantastic. Like I run almost everything through him.
Hmm.
If I can't think of something, he brainstorms it for me. Like he's very, or he'll organize something for me, or he'll help me problem solve, or he'll help me with, budget stuff or like, yeah,
Great.
he's my main man.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's great.
So yeah, so then I made a wellness center. I was like, my husband, he's a real estate broker, so he helped find me a spot,
Yep.
and I ended up finding a suite in this professional building in Hamden, right across the street from La Cucina, which
Hmm.
is a great
Great
spot.
spot.
Who doesn't love La Cucina?
Yeah.
Um, And it was, what was really cool about the spot is that the building inside was like so outdated, like
Mm.
1980s stuff. The owner let me blueprint the whole place myself and design it myself,
Mm.
which was really awesome. So I started from scratch and built the whole thing up in the suite.
Well, and
And
that's a fun process, right? Like, I
yeah,
mean, it,
decorating.
yeah, well, I mean, it's just being able to then say, okay, not only do you have this vision for, the center, fantastic, but then to, kind of put it all together the way that you want it to be,
Yeah,
is great. It brings on a lot of satisfaction on top of the tremendous amount of work that it takes in order to do that. It's a very fulfilling thing, correct?
it was an awesome process.
Yeah.
I will say, because my daughter was still, she was 1, I think, when I started it.
Mm.
And she's always been my business partner. Ugh, getting emotional about it. She's always
Mm.
been my business partner and sidekick. So like every time I had to go to the office to go over the blueprint, meet with a contractor, meet with the landlord, she was always with me,
Yeah.
um, which was really cool. And then she's always with me when I do events with Mama Life Oils too. And she
Yeah.
comes, she helps me set up. She,
I
sells my
heard
product.
I
She takes,
heard you, yeah, I heard you describing it to somebody that like she's running up and down the aisles, like down the plane. She's like she's just the best ambassador that you could have, like and representative of,
she is.
she's just
She's fantastic. Oh yeah, whenever I work farmers market, she like runs the show.
yeah.
She knows exactly what to do. She gives people their change. She puts them in bags. She goes up and down the aisle, says hi to everybody. She goes and gives business cards. Like
Hmm.
she's fabulous. Like she's a little
And what a
entrepreneur.
great, but that's a great example, right? Like she's getting this just because of what she saw.
Hmm.
And so what better valuable lesson, to give, which is fantastic. So that's great.
I love it when she comes to work with me.
Yeah.
Like it's so educational for her
Hmm.
and the socializing aspect. Like, I feel
It's
like she's like the mayor of the town.
that's
So, but
wonderful.
yeah, it's great. And so she, she saw me, bring 2 businesses to life because of her.
Mm,
Um, and she goes to my wellness center, um, to get chiropractic treatments, and she comes in with me to do, just housekeeping stuff or
hmm.
say hi to people. Everyone knows her, and it was quite the journey trying to find practitioners. That was the hardest part.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
just because like everyone's either well established, or it's really hard to find an acupuncturist or a naturopathic doctor. um, but I was lucky enough to find the people I wanted,
Hmm.
except the naturopathic doctor, just because the laws in Massachusetts are way different than Connecticut.
Oh,
um,
okay.
so but other than that, we have like a really great group of people there right now, and it's just so wonderful. Like I love walking into my office and like, well, no,
Yeah.
my suite. It's just so peaceful and everyone's just so nice. Like it's just so welcoming and warming. It's great. So
And as you were kind of talking about, your daughter, the one of the things that just kind of sparked me was that, you know, I found my why while taking care of my mom, and I would imagine you probably found your why while kind of now taking care of your daughter. Would that be a fair thing to say?
yeah, she's my why behind my businesses.
Yeah, and that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Um,
which is
and
a great which is a great kind of thing when things get really difficult, like you have that to kind of pull you through and to make you stronger that day, right?
exactly, because recently, um, my son, who is going to be 11 months, is mobile.
Mm,
And working at home is extremely difficult. And I can get one little task done for
mm,
work, and that's it. Other than
yeah.
that, I'm like manning him. And so lately work has been really overwhelming,
Hmm.
and I can't get anything done.
Yeah.
So, you know, with it becoming overwhelming and getting the mindset of like, oh, I don't want to quit. Like, I just want to shut this down for a while. But then, like, the other side of me is like, Jessica, you cannot let this go. Like, you'll make it through it. It'll be okay. It's just hard
Hmm.
right now. You know, Zoe's your reason why. You can't have her see you know, put all this to fold when you just built all of it up. I'm like, so
Yeah.
come on, keep on
You
going.
know,
Like, you can do this.
there's an amazing perspective that I heard once, and I've never been able to find it since. And I'm not like this, I'm an Oprah fan, but I'm not like this crazy Oprah fan. But I heard her talking to a group of, I think it was like Stanford University students, and she was talking about, perspective and moments of time. And, you know, the great things and the big things aren't going to be as big as we see them as, and the low points are never going to be as low as we view them,
Mhm,
given kind of a long snapshot. And it's only a moment in time, and you can always get through a moment in time, right? Like you can always push past that, and that's just a new stress because you've never experienced it before. And then once you get through it, you're like, okay, well, I can now handle this.
mhm,
And that's just always been something that I've always referred to when I get in that place of like, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. There's just no more that I have.
mhm. Yeah, that's exactly where I was last week. But yeah, you that's a great way to look at it. It's so hard in the moment, and you're like, oh, I just
Hmm.
can't more. And then
Yeah.
you're like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
let's backtrack here.
Well, because and you look at your success of pushing past those places, and you're doing pretty well so far. So it again, we become overwhelmed with what we have at different times, and
Yeah.
it's just needing a little break sometimes,
Mhm.
like going on vacation.
Like going on vacation frequently.
Yes. Awesome. And so, kind of creating these two things, having, really uh, an amazing career before that, because you've always been in this giving space, right? You've always been, just the career you had before is certainly geared towards taking care of other folks. And so I certainly commend you on all of this, having this practice, being able to have this alternative for people to certainly explore. And thank you for educating me, because I think that I'm very interested in exploring, a way to not take medication for my asthma every single day, which is something that I've been trying to not do since I was 5, probably. So looking back at all of that, and obviously, super, kind of proud of kids and all of that, but looking back at the kind of career, is there any one point, or is there any one thing that you think that you're maybe most proud of?
Hmm. And that's not my two businesses right now.
No, 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 no. It would be like
Okay.
within your kind of work, and I say excluding like children, because of course, the children would be the
Oh,
most the things
yeah.
that you're most proud of.
Okay.
But professionally, work wise, what you've been able to do to kind of get back, like what for you is, kind of what are you most proud of throughout this whole process?
That's a loaded question.
It is a loaded question, I know, and every time I ask that, I get that same response.
Um, gosh, there's a lot to be proud of.
Yeah.
Um,
And you can share it all. You don't have to necessarily specific one thing, but if sometimes there is that one thing that kind of stands out, maybe it was a moment that you kind of pushed through, or maybe it was, kind of the project of the building, whatever it might have been. I think that it's always kind of fun to hear little insights.
yeah. Well, a few things is just like going through like physical pain. I did a full marathon right before my daughter.
Mm,
That physical pain was awful.
yep.
Pushed through it and I finished it, and I'll never do one
Congratulations.
again. Thank you.
It's a lot.
It is a lot, and I'll never do one ever again.
I did a half marathon, and I have a full hip replacement to show for it. So I'm with you. I'll never run again.
I think what were we thinking?
Yeah.
Cross that off the bucket list. Um, and then, gosh, I had to trump that physical pain. I had, and I know like children were not supposed to be involved in this accomplishment, but
Sure. Yeah.
I had a natural home birth for my son.
Hmm.
So that pain totally trumped the
Any
marathon.
of the marathon,
I'm
sure.
proud that I did a home birth.
Yeah.
And then yeah, building the wellness center. Like I just love when people go. I'm like, oh my god, your space is just so wonderful. I just like take such pride in the
Mm.
wellness center. And yeah, it's just a great, great
That's
ask.
good.
I
Yeah.
can't put words right now, but
No, no, and I think
it's a great
that's
moment of time.
well, and it's also this place that is is you, and it's bigger than you, and
Hmm.
that's really cool, right? Like regardless, um this institution can still exist for a long time with kind of setting things up the right way. And how amazing is that? Like you think about starting to, again, what your mark in the world, like this is a pretty big mark, and so that's huge.
Yeah, yeah, nicely
That's
put. There you
awesome.
go. I'm like I couldn't think of words. I'm like, oh
But
no, I just love my wellness center.
it
And I
is.
just love how I can help people through like natural remedies. I think that's really cool because I came from such a medical mindset that like
Yeah.
even like I'll do like a recipe or concoction and someone be like, oh my God, Jessica, it worked. And I'm like, hot damn, it worked. Yes. It still like blows my mind. I'm like,
Right, like
it
like
worked?
you're
Wow,
you're
yes.
you're putting all of these things together, the benefits, and that, but then it's like it's still that excitement that, yes, it's
Yeah.
you sharing that
We get
excitement with
excited
those
about
other
it.
people. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think like the last thing I currently I'm super proud of and pumped about is so a little backtrack to this is um as a mental health counselor, my specialty was perinatal mood and anxiety disorder, so maternal mental
Mm,
health.
yeah.
I dealt with trying to conceive perinatal and postpartum moms,
Okay.
and I have my own story. I have my own story of postpartum depression. I have my own story of breastfeeding aggression and aversion, and
Mm,
my own story of perinatal anxiety and postpartum PTSD.
yeah.
So um, I wanted to share my story with people.
Hmm.
Then I was like, no, I want a group of women to share their story. So I am
Mm,
currently in the process of, we're starting soon. I have all of my women gathered, and we will be putting a book together called Postpartum Healing, A Woman's
mm,
Journey. And it is all these women's raw stories of either trying to conceive, perinatal time, postpartum,
hmm.
and they're going to share their story of what they went through and to kind of, not kind of, to validate other women's experiences and feelings.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
also to instill hope and healing, that things will get better. Just because postpartum or even perinatal, like you can't, us women feel we can't speak our
Sure.
truth
Yeah.
of, what we went through or what is currently happening, because you have to be happy that you had a baby and everything is
Yeah.
hunky dory and everything's great,
Yep.
which is not the case most of the time. So we're coming together, and I'm empowering, and they are empowering other women, um,
Yeah.
to come out and share their stories. So
And
that,
that's a wonderful thing to continue to do, right? To be able to, the biggest thing that people can do is to be able to share their story, to be able to relate to something that then they can feel validation for. And
mhm,
so being able to continuously share that and give back to people in various ways, and now in this specific way, is amazing. And again, part of the reason why I wanted to have you on, because I love what you're doing for the community. And when you talk about community, you can talk about things in a very kind of micro way or a macro way, because now you have individuals, let's just say, who are specifically buying things in a kind of a local area, but now continue to get exposed to information. And now by sharing this and sharing a kind of a raw story and allowing others to then be able to share that same thing, again, allows other people to connect. And that's amazing. So thank you for doing that. That's what a great way to continue to give back to, again, your community, wherever that community is, right?
yeah. And it was really amazing when I put the word out there that I was looking for other women to share their story. The
Hmm.
amount of women that came forward was like, it melted my heart.
Mm,
It it was this sort of energy, like, how do I describe it? It was like they were waiting for someone to say, "Okay, go for it.
let's do
Share
this.
your
Yeah.
story." Like not, I don't want to say given permission, but like given permission to be like,
Well, but
you
no, sometimes we just need somebody else to say you should do this,
know,
right? Like, and people have lots of different ideas, but are hesitant about taking first steps for various reasons, right? We don't want to be judged. We don't want, there's lots of different reasons. But then once somebody put something out there and exposes themselves a little bit, then it's easy to then, not easy, but then you feel validated to
yeah,
attach to that.
yeah,
And so that's the great thing about putting that out there, is that you allow people to then say, yes, I want to do this. And
mhm,
so that's amazing.
yeah. And like that was the response. They're like, "Oh my God, yes, this is great. Thank you for doing this." And and I'm like, "Oh my God,
Mhm.
like all these women just want to be heard."
Well,
Like,
because when you take that first step, you're the one who potentially, you've got to face whatever may come your way, and as we all know, it's not always pleasant, right? Like, I mean, people, especially like online, feel the need that they can comment about whatever they want, and say whatever they want about a subject that they have, really no right to comment on. And
mhm,
so again, it is taking that first step, which is hard for a lot of people to do, and it's a brave thing to do. So
mhm.
again, thank you for that.
Yeah, so I'm super pumped about this.
That's
Very,
awesome.
yeah, and I'm like so proud of the women to just be like, I'm ready. I'm
Yeah.
ready to share my story. Like
Yeah.
how healing for them too, and like healing for the women who are going to read this book. It's just,
Hmm. Wonderful. I love it. I love it. And I love that, as overwhelmed as you have been, that you're putting something else on your
I know.
plate. But that's the beauty of it, because again, we can stretch, we just haven't done that before. So it,
Yeah.
again, it just allowing ourselves to to do that, but that's
Let's just add
fantastic.
another thing to my plate. I don't
Good,
know.
good for you. No,
But
it
it's not
really,
something that's like sucking the energy out of me.
of
I think this is
course.
something that's filling my cup. So
100%. And that's the beauty of it, right? Because you're going to be busy. And I tell people all the time, right? Like I can have, not that, I mean, you probably haven't had this in 5.5 years, but there's days like on a Sunday where, you lay on a couch all day watching movies. And at the end of the day, like that's what I said, you haven't had that in years.
oh, I
And you
yearn
would,
for
yeah,
that.
and you would love it. But for those of us that have done it, by the end of the day, you're still exhausted from having done nothing. And
Yeah.
so, and so being able to, and I think that that's a great example, being able to fill your cup with something, even though it takes time away and you have to make space for it, it gives you energy and it allows you to then, you know, allow that energy to go somewhere else.
Hmm.
So good.
Exactly.
That's amazing. Wonderful. Well, listen, Jess, this has been an amazing conversation. I think that this is a great place to kind of wrap things up. I think that you've given folks a tremendous amount of insight and also just being able to provide a platform for folks to who's ever watching. I think has a lot to be able to kind of emulate and just build strength to take some first steps for their own whatever venture that's right for them, right? Because it's all unique to us all. But thank you for doing all of that.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This was great.
Yeah, this really was. And so certainly enjoy the rest of your vacation. Go get some of that sunshine that you haven't had a little bit. And I look forward to connecting in the future, Jess.
All right. Thank you so much.